Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today, we're talking about episode 47, The Chatterbox. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. Maggie has been invited to her first Sweet 16, and Fran has made an appointment for her at the Chatterbox with Mr. Anthony to do her hair so her friends will hate her guts. After school, but before the appointment, Fran meets Mary Ruth, who came for the tall, voluptuous showgirl 18 to 25 casting call. Mary Ruth meets perhaps one of those qualifications, and Fran suggests she instead become the new shampoo girl at the Chatterbox. At the Chatterbox, Sylvia and Yetta are getting their hair done, and Mary Ruth is hired as the new shampoo girl, despite Sylvia thinking she was a shoo-in for the job. Fran guilts Sylvia out of, seeking a job, only for Mary Ruth to blow her cover. Most of the rest of the episode focuses on Mr. Anthony, his son Mimo, and the Chatterbox employees, including Mary Ruth getting herself fired for butting her nose into Mr. Anthony's personal life. The results of Maggie's hair appointment greatly displeased Maxwell because she purchased a brunette wig that made her look 25, as pointed out by Maxwell's attorney when he pointed to the hot brunette. Fran confiscates the wig, and after failing to return it, starts wearing it, garnering Maxwell's attention. The episode ends with Maggie going to Sweet 16 and Fran still in the wig, and Maxwell going for ice cream in a movie. Bernadette, do you want to add anything?
No. I think
All
we're
right.
good.
Would you like to take us to breakfast?
Yes. So we open the show in the not the living room, the dining room. They're having breakfast. Fran walks in one of her robes, and she's on the phone. And we immediately know it's with Sylvia because she's asking, Ma, how are you having a midlife crisis? Are you expecting to live to 130? And we learned that what they're discussing is Sylvia's wanting to get a job. She was apparently fired from a bakery. And according to Fran, it's because she ate like a pig. Of course, when she's saying this line, she's in the middle of getting breakfast from like the sideboard where Niles is, and she, gets a generous helping. And then after she says, you ate like a pig, apparently Sylvia was not too pleased. The conversation ends, and Fran notes now she's insulted. Then Fran reminds Maggie that they have an appointment with Mr. Anthony at the Chatterbox for Maggie to get her hair done. It's Haley's Sweet 16 party. And, if she gets her hair done by Mr. Anthony, everybody's going to hate her guts.
Right.
In a positive way. And Maxwell, though, is like, oh, Miss Fine. Like, is this all what these parties are? Like for girls to hate their guts? And both Fran and Maggie are like, yes. Cece walks in to sit down to join them for breakfast. And Maxwell asks her, Cece, did you ever have one of those Sweet 16 parties? And Cece's like, oh, to one of those, events where all those snot noses are trying to one up each other? No. And then, of course, Fran turns to Niles and said, no friends. And Niles says, none.
Exactly.
Niles serves Cece her breakfast, but Cece points out, Niles, my eggs are dried up. And Niles, of course, says, the gene pool is saved.
Exactly.
Ouch. It's a relatively quick scene. Again, this is setting up that we will be going to the Chatterbox, where Mr. Anthony works.
Correct.
Do you have anything to add to this opening scene, Debbie?
I do not.
Okay. Will you then take us to the living room?
I'd be happy to. So it's now clearly after school. Fran's bringing the kids home, and it's before Maggie's hair appointment. And Fran warns the children that they're about to enter Silicon Valley. And we see that there are all these voluptuous, shall we say, women standing around in the living room for a casting call. And Brighton is annoyed because he told his dad not to cast this role until after school. And he's going to be so upset if they've already danced. And so he runs off to have words with Maxwell, shall we say. And Maggie, I think, says that she's going to just get changed, and Fran tells her, hurry up. Nobody has kept Mr. Anthony waiting except for, Susan Powder. And she's like, need I say more? So anyway, Maggie races upstairs to like get out of her uniform. And I think this is the point where Mary Ruth comes in and she, opens the door. Excuse me, can you break a 20? The cab driver's holding it until I can get changed. And then like we hear the cab speed off. And she's like, oh well, it's fine. This is my time. And she has this like upbeat optimism that is just totally divorced from reality, as we will quickly see. And she comments about how like this job is mine. Blue is my lucky color, and the entire house is painted in blue. Turns out she's wearing blue sunglasses. And she's like, oh, bummer.
Because Fran takes it off.
Exactly. Fran lifts them off her nose.
Funny. Lifts it off.
Yeah, bummer. I mean, bummer. So Fran comments about I think Fran's asked if she's there for the, one of them asks, so Mary Ruth comments and asks Fran, like, are you here for the tall, voluptuous showgirl audition? And Fran's like, oh, I guess your eyesight's fine. And so we learn a little bit more about Mary Ruth, that she had been living with her acting teacher. Like, she hadn't been paying the acting teacher anything because they'd been living together until he threw her out for someone with more talent. And she makes it clear that by talent, she means someone with who's better endowed on their chest, shall we say.
Yep.
And I counted this all as one scene, but I don't think we see her actual audition before Maxwell and Cece, but we get the sense that it didn't go very well, but this was the best audition she's had yet. And so Fran convinces her to, maybe this isn't the right role for you. Someone just told me they need a new shampoo girl at the Chatterbox, come along, let me see your resume. Mr. Anthony won't hire anyone but the best. Is Supercuts one word or two? Yeah.
And that's kind of harkening back because like Fran's actually trying to help Mary Ruth a bit in terms of the auditions by looking over her resume, and she doesn't have any acting credits. So Fran's like, okay, Mr. Sheffield's not going to just, hire a random person off the street. So how do you spell Baywatch? One word or two?
Right.
Fran also advises, well, then I think, I'm not sure who brought it up, but the whole concept of if you're nervous, imagine who you're, the person in front of you naked. And Fran notes, oh, I've seen him naked. Oh, because she says to imagine Cece, not Maxwell, because she's seen Maxwell naked, and that's not going to calm you down.
Yeah.
And then again, in terms of whenever she's telling Fran, that even though Cece was laughing at her, we could hear Cece laughing at her.
Oh, yeah.
That went better than the last. But she's telling Fran she has no place to live, like a whole litany of things she does not have. And she's like, but I can't complain. And so Fran says, you're not Jewish, are you? And
right.
That's when she mentions the position as a shampoo girl.
Right. Thank you for adding to that. My notes to speak are not as comprehensive as they usually are.
No problem.
Would you like to take us to the Chatterbox?
Yes. So we were at the Chatterbox, and we first see Claude. We learn his name is Claude later. But, he says Claude speaking. He's answering the phone. And he is talking. Apparently, someone's calling to cancel a 4:00 appointment. And he says, you can't cancel on Mr. Anthony without 48 notice. Pause. Well, when did she die? And obviously the person has then hung up. Then Mr. Anthony makes an appearance in the salon. He's singing What's New, Pussycat? And he's actually styling both Grandma Yetta and Sylvia at the same time. So he's kind of going back and forth between their chairs. And Grandma Yetta says, come over here. And he comes over and she puts some money in his pocket and she says she's very satisfied.
And she has that look on her face, that like mischievous smile.
Lascivious.
Yes. That's a better way to describe it.
And then Sylvia's like, uh does she say ma or like I don't, but she's
Yeah, she
basically
says
it's my
ma.
yeah, my turn to tip. And Mr. Anthony kind of like kind of thrusts out his other pocket and says, "Plenty of room on this side." And Sylvia's like, "Oh, I'm a married woman. Come over here." And so she also puts in, but then she like grabs his butt and says, "Like a ripe cantaloupe." And he says, "You bruise it, you bought it." Um,
Yes. Um,
s-
can
yeah.
I just so I feel like it might be worth noting that Mr. Anthony is a conventionally attractive man, right?
Hmm.
And when, Sylvia, after Sylvia is annoyed at Yetta for tipping, he sort of like gyrates his hips towards her and then he says, "Don't worry, Sylvia, I've still got plenty of room on this side."
Yeah.
And that's when you're right. She says, "Oh, Mr. Anthony, I'm a married woman." And instead of just saying, "Come here," she kind of like grabs him by the belt,
Yeah, that's true.
by the like waist, I guess the waist of his jeans, and like pulls him, "Come here." And she doesn't stick the cash in his pocket. She sticks the cash directly into his pants.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
felt like I
No,
needed
that's
to.
an important clarification. And
Okay.
again, Mr. Anthony is flirtatious, but as a side note, still, don't just grab people.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
it goes
Um,
both ways, like just
yeah, treat
anyway.
everyone respectfully.
Exactly.
All
Um,
right, continue. Sorry, I just wanted
especially
to.
like, the service industry where,
Yes.
they're trying not to offend people, but like customers. Anyway, um, but Fran walks in with um, Maggie and Mary Ruth, and I'm trying to say like again the whole thing with Fran telling Mary Ruth to picture Mr. Anthony naked,
Yes.
and she's like, "But I'm not nervous," and
Right.
still, just picture him naked, because as you said, he's conventionally attractive, right?
Yeah.
Um, and Mr. Anthony greets Fran, like very enthusiastically, and she complimenting her, but like but it turns out he's like, "No one conditions like you." So he's like really admiring her hair.
Right. Yeah. He says, "Look at that body. Look at that shape. No one conditions like you."
Exactly. So like you can tell Fran's a little disappointed about
Yeah.
that turn. And then she introduces Maggie,
Right.
that she's going to a sweet 16. And Mr. Anthony says, "You're 16, you're beautiful, you're mine. I made that up." And of course, like Maggie is all like starry eyed and like melting underneath the attention of Mr. Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Why don't we get you into something more comfortable?" And she's like, "Okay." And then like it's a smock that Claude's gonna help her with.
Yes. You did a
Yes.
great impersonation of her. Okay. Because
Yeah.
it's like teenage fangirling.
Yes. Yeah. And
Continue.
you know, there I can't recall who's talking about it, but basically Claude, I think Mr. Anthony's talking about Claude, maybe. He's a great stylist. He's the one who told Jerry Lewis to put more oil.
It was Fran.
Okay. And then Claude, um, and we can tell as the audience that Claude is gay. Uh, with his, um, well, he has very stereotypical mannerisms, I would say. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yeah.
And he says to Maggie, "Oh, another natural blonde," as if he's also a natural blonde.
Exactly. And
Once,
he's
yeah, go ahead.
and the implication is he's not, just like Cece is not a natural
Exactly.
blonde.
Yeah. And then that's when after Maggie and Claude kind of go off to the side, Fran introduced Mary Ruth as the new, here's your new shampoo girl. And so Mr. Anthony kind of takes a look at Mary Ruth's um, resume. He goes, "Ooh, supercuts."
Right.
um, And she's kind of looking at him and she's like, "What are you looking at?" She's like, "Nothing, just picturing you naked." Like realizes what she's saying.
Yeah,
Um, and she then is like, it's just, I think at this point, Fran's no longer really in the conversation. Is that correct?
correct. Because Mary Ruth starts going off about how, I
Yes.
think it only fair. Go ahead.
To let you know that first and foremost, I'm an actress. Because basically she's saying at any time she could be leaving this job, to go on Broadway or whatever it may be. Merv Griffin may need, like another
Game
person on
show
the game.
hostess.
Yes. And to this, Mr. Anthony just responds, "Do you sweep?" "Yes." "You're hired." And she's just ecstatic to be
Oh,
hired.
bless you, Mr. Anthony.
Yes. I kind of this as the same, or did you count it as separate going
I counted
forward?
this as the same scene.
Okay, yeah. Because again, we're still in the salon and Fran's talking to Yetta saying how Maggie's going to the Sweet 16 and it's going to be at the Statue of Liberty. And Grandma Yetta says, "Well, mine was at Ellis Island." And Fran kind of looks at her and she's like, because Grandma Yetta continues, "So many people came." And Fran kind of gives her a look and says, "You are in quarantine." And so of course Grandma Yetta's like, "I wondered why it took it lasted so long."
Yeah, I thought it went on a little long.
Yes. In the back corner of the salon on the left, Sylvia is finishing her manicure and she thanks
Mhm.
Kim, the manicurist. And she asks her, "How long do I have to wait until I eat?" And Kim kind of says, like, looks at her and says, "4 years." Which again, um, but at that point, Sylvia meets up with Fran and she's talking about how, she thinks she's practically a shoo-in for the job as the shampoo girl because the only other person who's applied is Estelle. And the camera pans to an older lady underneath, like the, what's it called?
It's like the hair dryer. It's
Yes,
like the conical one that like comes down over your head and is super, super
exactly.
hot.
And she's an elderly lady and she's like fast asleep. And
Exactly.
so, you know, uh, Sylvia says he wants somebody younger, and she's kind of indicating herself
She
because
says
compared to
he
that
wants
lady,
someone young, not even younger, like
oh,
young,
yeah,
definitive, not comparatively.
but she's acting as if, she meets that criteria.
Exactly.
And this is when Fran kind of realizes, oh, it was Sylvia who had told her about the job.
Exactly.
And so she starts kind of going into this, trying to convince Sylvia that she doesn't actually want this job. So she's like, "Oh no, what about the permanent wave fumes?" And Sylvia's like, "Oh, it gives me a nice buzz." I think that's Sylvia, not
That's
Yetta.
Yetta.
Oh, it is Yetta. Okay, sorry. But then Fran's like, "Who's gonna get, dad dinner or lunch?" And Sylvia's like, "He can put the water in the top ramen himself." And Fran's like, "Well, but who's going to stop him from eating? Do you remember Uncle Aaron? May he rest in peace." And apparently there was some kind of freak accident at Hanukkah where he
Hmm.
ate 32 latkes and sat too close to the menorah.
And
Uh,
then what happened?
apparently exploded.
Exactly. He exploded.
And so this is when, um, because Fran points out, "Oh, where was the aunt? I didn't catch her name." "Oh, she was at work." "Oh, I'm being selfish. You know, I should sacrifice my career for, my man and all." She's like basically bought into that whole type of mindset. And she's hugging Fran. And that's when Mary Ruth, of course, comes in behind Sylvia and is thanking Fran for getting her this shampoo job. And so Fran's like, "Ow, Ma, stop pinching me."
Hmm.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
Okay. Can you take us to the next scene?
Sure. So we're I think still in the Chatterbox.
Mhm.
And Kim and Mary Ruth are talking, and Kim is showing off her nails. And she describes, "This is the best nail I ever paint. This is my country. That's my sister. That's her husband. And that's the cat." And
Mhm.
Mary Ruth's like, "It's amazing you can paint in so much detail." And Kim's like, "Yeah, meanwhile, I'm going blind." Um,
Mhm.
their conversation is interrupted by a scream from off screen. And, Mary Ruth jumps up because she's shocked. And Kim tells her, "Don't worry, calm down. That was just the bikini wax." Um, and so, she's, I think, later admiring Mr. Anthony and,
Wait, but what
oh,
who comes out
oh,
after?
thank you. Yes, it was Grandma Yetta.
Yes.
It was Grandma Yetta. Although I'm not really sure the scream sounded like her. Did you think the scream sounded like her?
No, not necessarily, but the implication with her coming out shortly thereafter is that it was her.
Yes, and that she was getting a bikini wax.
Mhm.
Good for Grandma Yetta. Um, so yeah, sorry, that is a very important detail. Um, so Mr. Anthony, I think is helping a customer, and Mary Ruth is staring at him, and Kim sort of teases her, "What are you staring at? Like I don't know." And she's like, "Oh, he's not my type, tall, blue eyes, good looking. That's not my type. What is he, a 30-inch waist? 29 long," is the response from Kim. And of course, Kim's response is echoing through Mary Ruth's ears when Mr. Anthony asks her how her first day was. And her immediate response is long, hard, good. Like, clearly
Mhm.
not great.
Bye.
Yeah, exactly. He asks her, "Did you sweep?" And she says, "Yes." And he says, "Good, then you can go home." And she's like, "Great. Do you know a nice hotel or maybe a shelter? I don't really know Queens." And of course, at that point, Claude is walking by and, shakes out, offers her hand. Now you know one, charmed. And he keeps going. Um, so Mr. Anthony, in his benevolence, determines that until she gets back on her feet, she can stay in the back room. He notes that it's not really fit for a human being, and when his mother's in town, she has to go. But so again, she's so thrilled. Um, and so she tells Kim that, "Mr. Anthony's so nice, he's letting me stay in the back room." And Kim responds, "Oh, that's nice. It was supposed to be employee lounge, but this is much better." And then she
Clearly
mutters,
not thinking it's much better.
"No," and she mutters something, which I don't think is in English, under her breath. Um, and I believe this is where we meet, where a young kid, not maybe I shouldn't say young, a kid runs in, and shouts before coming in, "Come over here and say that." Oh, geez, it's just an expression, closes the door. Um, and we find out that that's Mr. Anthony's son, Nemo.
Mhm.
Um, and, he sort of like starts rustling um, with the cash register, and, uh, you know, Mary Ruth starts talking to him and points out, "Your head is bleeding. Let me see if I can find a band-aid." And so she starts like, um, oh, I want to make sure I'm not skipping anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, she says your blood, like there's blood gushing, and he's like, I'm 13 in New York City. My dad owns a beauty salon. It's not an uncommon thing.
Correct. Correct.
And, and then she starts to kind of help him, and she's kind of mentioning that the head bleeds the most because of the capillaries.
Right. Being
Again,
close to the surface. And then she's like, it's clear she's not good with blood.
and she
Um,
says it.
yeah, she
I'm,
says, "I'm not good with blood. Mimo, swear you won't let my dress fall over my head." And then she faints.
yep.
Um, and I don't know if you caught the comment he made, but
Hmm.
he says, "She fits in perfectly, another Fruit Loop for the bowl."
Hmm.
And so Claude asks, "Who were you fighting with?" I hope it wasn't, I didn't write down the kid's name.
Glenn Shamoff or something like that.
Yeah, some other kid. Um, and I'd give him a piece of my mind if he wasn't so big for his age. And Kim, chimes in. "His mother's a nice lady, a good customer. I see her tomorrow." And then quietly to Mimo, she says, "I'll give her fungus."
Hmm.
Um, and so, Mary Ruth at some point has, woken up from her fainting and starts rustling through the drawers looking for a band-aid. And Nemo tries to like protect a drawer. It's a junk drawer, as we later find out. And she's like, I'm not interested in anything in this drawer unless it's a Band-Aid. And as she's wrestling, she picks something up. Immediately thereafter, she says, what's this? It turns out it's a picture of Nemo's mother. And, at some point, Mr. Anthony sees her holding it. And, what's that? Anyway. She says it's
Because
so
Nemo's mother broke his heart, according to the other employees.
Yes. And the glass as we learned, the glass on the picture frame is broken, as we later find out, or is later said by Mary Ruth, who obviously wasn't there when it happened. The picture was punched out by Mr. Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
So she comments about how it's so obvious what's going on here. And Mr. Anthony's like, yeah, you're about to get fired. She's like, no. All these years you've been hating her. He's been missing her. And so he ends up taking the picture from her and saying he's going to put it where it belongs. And she thinks he's going to put it back in the junk drawer. Turns out he instead puts it in the garbage can. And he makes the comment that he should have hired Sylvia because then he would have gotten a little peace and quiet, which is amusing because obviously Sylvia would not provide peace or quiet.
Yeah, as expressed in the next scene. But before we go there, I do want to point out when she gives the line, all these years you've been hating her, he's been missing her. Mr. Anthony makes the observation, do you have an urge to reach out to people? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, fix that. He's not having it.
Right.
It's interesting to note too, like Kim and Claude obviously like know Mimo really well, have affection for him. Because again, Kim even pulls up one of her nails to show it's Mimo's class picture, and he's the only one without a tie.
Right.
But yeah, so again, we can kind of tell Mary Ruth is one to be a little nosy, right? Fair to say.
She's sort of like Fran, but not as polished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, of course, we leave that scene as you said with Mr. Anthony saying he should have, hired Sylvia. There'd be a bit of peace and quiet or whatever. And of course, we immediately cut to the Sheffield living room where Fran and Sylvia are walking in, and Sylvia's like, "My own daughter betrayed me. Now I know how Nancy Reagan feels."
Exactly.
And Fran apologizes, like, "What can I do to make it up to you?" And immediately Sylvia's like, "Marry Mr. Sheffield."
Mm-hmm.
And that's ridiculous and stuff. And thank goodness I take after Grant Marietta. Oh, and then she pauses. Fran has to pause after making that comment about herself.
Exactly.
And Sylvia's like, "My whole life, I've been someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother. Who the hell am I?" And then, but at that time,
So Sylvia walks away, and then
yes,
we hear a very angry Mr. Sheffield shouting,
"Miss Fine!" And he comes in, and he's bringing along Maggie, who we immediately notice is wearing a short, dark wig. And apparently, Mr. Sheffield and his lawyer had been walking down the street, and the lawyer mentioned the hot brunette. And Fran's like, "Oh, I was on fifth. Couldn't be right. I was on fifth." But no, it was Maggie who the lawyer had spotted. And, Maxwell says, "My 15-year-old daughter in a wig, making her look 25. And hearing this, Maggie gets excited. She's like, 25? Do you think I could get into a club? And Fran's like, "Oh, and we don't even have the lashes on you."
right.
But then Fran realizes this is not the way to be talking in front of Mr. Sheffield, and hurries Maggie along to her room to bake a cupcake in her easy bake oven. She's like obviously scrambling for something.
Correct.
And she leaves, and so Fran and Maxwell are talking, and Fran's trying to say, "Oh, like, everybody, young girls experiment with their looks. When I was her age, I dyed my hair red like Rula Lenska." And within a couple of days, she obviously is reminiscent, and she's like, "Oh, that wig is going back. I'll get a full refund. We're like family."
Right.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So
So
as
we
is common with the transitions in this episode.
Right. So Fran, as you said, Fran was calling to try to get a full refund. We then jump to the Chatterbox and we see Claude on the phone. Fran, who? Tears don't work on me. Neither does that. Uh, well, maybe that would work if I closed my eyes. And then he hangs up.
Mhm.
Um, and we're left to our imagination what Fran was offering or asking. Um, and so Kim says, it clearly they're like closing down for the night, like there are no customers. Kim says to Claude to give her some big hair because she has her nephew's bar mitzvah tomorrow. And Mary Ruth asks, "Oh, are you Jewish?" And the response is, "No, I married one. They make good husbands. Don't cheat, no drink, and every Sunday night he's in the mood for Chinese." Um, so
But, like, she says that a bit suggestively, right?
yeah, yeah, you can determine if she means Chinese food or something else. Um, and so we hear from Mary Ruth that she took the picture out of the picture of Nemo's mother out of the garbage to fix the frame. And Kim says quietly to Claude, "Very good. We got the employee lounge back." Um, and she comments about how Mr. Anthony. Um, let's see. So she's basically psychoanalyzing Mr. Anthony, and they comment about how he's seeing, he's burying his loneliness or his sadness with Bernice tonight or something like that. And Mary Ruth says, you know what they say, all the good ones are either married or seeing someone, or that's all they say, those two things. Because she looks at Claude and gets uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So she asks what this woman who's seeing Mr. Anthony is like. And Kim says, very smart, two brains, indicating that she is also well endowed. Um,
Mhm.
and Mary Ruth continues her analysis. Now that's classic. He's avoiding a serious relationship because he's afraid of getting hurt. Um, and so she,
But then she also makes the comment, "I wonder how much it costs to get a brain like that."
yes, how much brains like that cost?
Mhm.
Anyway, so she's saying she starts talking this like big game about how like she's gonna tell Mr. Anthony that his son misses the mom and wants the picture and yada yada yada, and then he shows up right behind her, and instead of everything she just said she was gonna say, she says, "Oh, Pier 1 is having a 2-for-1 sale, and I thought Nemo would like the frame of lesser value, of equal or
Equal
lesser
or less.
value."
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So he's less than happy, to put it nicely. Um, and he starts explaining, when you alphabetize my styling mousses, I said, all right, she's eager. When you convinced Mrs. Wilk or some customer we don't know to cut her hair short so she wouldn't have to come back for 6 months, I said, all right, she's stupid. But when you interfere in my personal life against direct orders, I say she's fired. And,
Mhm.
she actually stands up for herself. When a guy punches out a picture of his wife, I say, all right, he's in pain. When he throws that picture into the trash, I say, all right, he's in denial. But when he fires the one person who is just trying to bring him and his son closer together, I say, please don't fire me, Mr. Anthony.
And she's, like, on her knees.
Yeah, she's like clutching at him and like very upset. And he thinks that he comments that no one wants the picture. And Nemo from behind them is like, I do. And Mr. Anthony wants to know why, and Nemo says, just in case she came back, I'd know what she looked like.
Mhm.
And so Mary Ruth again tries to step in. Well, then you should keep it because she was your mother. And Mr. Anthony's like, I can talk to my own kid. Then you should keep it because she was your mother. And just for the record, she walked out on me, not you. And then they
Mhm.
hug, and Kim comments about how it's a real Kodak moment, and she starts getting her nail polish ready to paint another nail.
Mhm.
Is there anything you want to add to the scene?
Just that it was interesting too that, like, Mary Ruth, like, grabs, Mr. Anthony's jacket after he does "You're fired." He turns away and she grabs it, and then she goes into her, like, the pain, denial, "Please don't fire me" thing.
Right.
But yeah, so in the last scene, we're back in the living room. Maggie's coming down, dressed for the Sweet 16, and it's a very, I mean, it's a more juvenile look, I would say, right? I mean,
Oh,
there's,
yes, especially compared to the brunette wig.
yeah,
Absolutely.
because she has her regular hair, but then her dress like has like some type of floral like around the neckline.
Yeah, it has like
I can
I
tell
think they're
those days.
daisies.
Yeah, okay. And and of course Maxwell's pleased, and he's like, there's my little girl. And she's like, I'm not going. No boy's going to be interested in me looking like this. And he's like, great, then you won't have any trouble being home by 10.
Exactly.
Um, and so, and he also makes a comment, of course, as Maggie's leaving, like, what boy in his right mind would like that ridiculous wig? And of
No
course,
boy,
yeah.
no guy in his right mind. No boy, I don't whatever. None of them.
And then, of course, that's when Fran comes downstairs wearing the wig, and she's also in an all black outfit. So looking very chic, I would say.
Do you want to describe her outfit now or wait for fashion?
Uh, I don't have detailed notes on it, so if you want to describe it.
I would call it like a black bodysuit. It's form fitting. So I mean, she's wearing long black sleeves underneath it, and then it has like a little zip, like a little zipper down the front. But it's all, as you said, all black. I won't say like full bell bottom because they weren't that big, but like looser on the bottom pants, and I think she's wearing black heels.
Mhm. And she's gonna go out for ice cream, and Maxwell's now interested in going with her, but she's like, I thought you said you were exhausted. And Niles chimes in, I've prepared you a bath in the jacuzzi with like a little thing of,
Eucalyptus
yeah,
and
with eucalyptus and
snifter
some
of
kind of alcohol.
brandy.
Yeah, snifter of brandy. And but no, Maxwell's gonna go hail a taxi. And Niles starts kind of undoing his tie. Well, wouldn't want it to go to waste. Um,
which
and
which is the exact same reason that Fran says she's wearing the wig.
yes, because she can't get a refund.
Exactly.
Um, and Fran's like, I don't, I feel like I don't have the full thing, but she says something about double dipping. I don't
Yeah,
know if I should be flattered or insulted.
right.
And then Maxwell comes, kind of sticks his head back in and says, how about we catch a movie as well? And she turns to Niles and says, flattered it is.
Exactly.
And that's the episode.
Correct.
And there's no ending credit scene.
Nope.
As we've noticed these last couple of episodes, they
That's
haven't been.
true.
So yeah. Um, I just before we get into the shticks, I was a bit befuddled with all the time we spent at the Chatterbox. I
So,
didn't know if they were trying to do some type of like spin-off.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
According to IMDb, this was supposed to be a backdoor pilot, but needless to say, it didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
I don't know if this was actually from IMDb or just someone commented on IMDb's webpage, but like
Mhm.
the analysis was like, yes, this was supposed to be a backdoor pilot, but like it was sort of unclear where it would go. The characters at the Chatterbox didn't have great chemistry. Like, what was going to happen? Like, the conflict was already like there and resolved in this episode.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because it definitely felt like it was an attempt to establish a spinoff, but I didn't recall a spinoff. So I was like, huh?
yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll save the rest of my commentary for our ratings.
Okay.
Um,
So favorite fashion, or unless you wanted to anything overall before.
um, I'll just make this comment now to make sure we don't forget it.
Hmm.
Even though it sort of falls more under notable New Yorkers. Did Mimo look like? Did he look at all
Yes,
familiar to you?
yes. He looked like the child. Was it the child actor from before?
Yeah, he played Jack Walker before. It's the
Yeah,
same kid.
yeah. I I noticed that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that because previously when I had watched this episode, that did not click until more recently. So, but yeah, it's the same kid.
Okay.
All right, favorite fashion. I guess let's start with Fran's bodysuit. Did you like it? Would you wear it?
I couldn't pull it off like her. Again, I think she looked very 90s chic, if that makes sense.
She
Um,
did, yes.
but yeah, I don't think I could pull it off like her though. What
I
about you?
I don't think anyone can pull anything off the way she can, but I might be willing to try. Um, although I mean, she looks fantastic. Um, I would just find it very hard to go to the bathroom because
Oh,
it's a one piece. And that's like it boggles my mind why people wear one pieces because you have to like
oh
get
yeah.
naked.
Logistically.
Exactly. The logistics don't make any sense. But yeah, she looked fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, did you think the wig made Maggie look 25?
Not necessarily. I think part of that is that maybe if there's a bit of a contrast between her face and the hair in terms of like they didn't like darken her eyebrows,
Hmm.
I don't think.
They did not.
Um so it looked like someone dressing up in a sense. I don't know. Um Maybe if they had done like the whole makeup look that Fran was talking about, I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah,
It
I
just
didn't think so
mm,
either.
yeah. Yeah. So, now in terms of outfits, Fran had that kind of crop jacket with the
Hmm.
black skirt and like the little kind of dangling belt, or not quite a belt, but something around her waist. I actually kind of liked it. I couldn't wear it, but it looked good on her, I thought.
I liked it as well. I'm just not a big fan of like the cropped jacket look.
Hmm.
To me, I'd rather it have been like an actual like come down to her waist slash her like right above her hip. I think that would have
Hmm.
been better. But yeah, she looked great in it.
Hmm.
What about what Maggie wore? Either to the Chatterbox or when she pretended to be 25, or to the Sweet 16. Did you have
So,
any thoughts on those outfits?
um, I guess I didn't notice that the outfit she wore when she was looking 25 was different from the Chatterbox. But the Chatterbox outfit was like very 90s, I feel like.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned, the dress to the Sweet 16 was a bit more juvenile.
Yes, I like the juvenile dress. I think best of what Maggie wore in this episode.
Hmm.
Um, was there any other fashion you wanted to talk about?
So just noteworthy. Not that I particularly liked it, but what Mary Ruth wore.
Yeah, that was the last one on my list too.
Because it was kind of like, again, when we first see her coming into the Sheffield home, she's wearing the blue tinted sunglasses, but she's also wearing, like, at that time, a jacket, like
Hmm.
a blue, uh, what's it called?
Velvet.
Velvet jacket with like embroidered flowers.
Yes,
And,
multicolored, like green
mhm,
and orange and red and yellow and purple and lots of flowers
yeah,
on the top.
but also like a velvet skirt underneath that, which I think later we see as a dress.
Yes, that is right.
And then white tights. Um, and so a big contrast to what every other woman is wearing at that audition. And again, later when she takes off her jacket, we realize that like she's also wearing like a long sleeved white underneath the dress, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So in some respects, again, the 90s kind of feel to it, I would say. Um,
exactly.
but again, doesn't make you think of an actress that she's proclaiming herself to be, right?
No, no, it's more like what Maggie would wear.
Yeah, yeah,
It's juvenile. It's like a skater dress, but it's velvet with spaghetti straps over the white long sleeve t-shirt, for lack of better phrasing.
yeah. Hmm. But,
Um,
like, the white t-shirt and the white tights are both, like, the same, like, vibrant white.
yeah, it's yeah, it's weird.
Mhm.
Not a big fan.
Mhm.
Um, as I'm thinking, I do have one other piece of fashion I want to just comment on. Um,
Mhm.
did you notice what Sylvia was wearing at the Chatterbox? She was wearing
Um,
like a long red shirt, dress, whatever, and then it has like this pattern over the shoulders and like around the back, so kind of like as if she was wearing a scarf. It's very reminiscent of what she was wearing in the episode Me and Barbara Joan, where when she says to Cece's dad, this outfit goes from, day to night with just a few accessories. It has the same idea, same thing, but just with sequins.
mm,
So
mhm.
I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah. So notable New Yorkers, I think again, you already mentioned that the actor who plays Nemo, we have seen before. And
Correct.
was it this season?
That was the first season, I
Okay.
believe.
So at least it's not the same season.
Yeah, but it's still like not that long ago.
No, it's not. Um, so yeah. Um, Trying to jump into this. I mean, again, in general, I think we as Americans are familiar with the concept of the Sweet 16 party. I
Right.
personally did not have one.
Um, I'm gonna correct myself.
Yes.
Well, now I'm confused. I was gonna say maybe it actually was this season, but I don't think so. Anyway, sorry. I
No, it's
totally
okay.
Anyway, continue. I will get to the bottom of this.
But essentially, in America, it's common when someone turns 16 that they have a large Sweet 16 party because in America, when you turn 16, that's when you can get a driver's license in a lot of jurisdictions. I would say, I can't say for sure all, because some vary in terms of when you can get a learner's permit, but 16 is kind of that well-known age in America.
I didn't realize
Again,
it was because of driver's licenses,
well, I
but that makes
associate with
sense.
that. I could be wrong, but I mean, often like for like wealthier kids, like their parents will get them a car, which is a pretty big birthday present. Um, Again, that was not my personal experience. I don't know. Did you have a Sweet
No,
16,
I did
Abby?
not. I had a bat mitzvah 3 years before. So,
Ah. Mm-hmm.
and yes, I've confirmed through IMDb that he played Jack Walker in episode season 2 episode 11, and then he played Mimo in season 2 episode 25.
See, it was not that long ago.
No, no, it wasn't.
Um,
Anyway,
but yeah.
sorry, I needed
So
to confirm
yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah,
that's
I did
great.
not have a Sweet 16. I was not even invited to any Sweet 16s. Did you at least get invited to any?
Um, I'm like trying to think. Like I don't recall any like big extravagant. Sorry if any of my friends are listening and you invited me to one. I don't recall going to like any big ones. I'm sure there's probably some, but I had a friend who had, how do you pronounce it? I'm gonna mess up on a content.
Quinceañera.
Yes, when she was 15.
Hmm.
She had a joint one with one of her other friends. So that was kind of the bigger kind of birthday party I had been to. Um, yeah, I can't really off the top of my head. Sorry if again if you're listening, friends.
I hate to say it was a while ago for us
Yeah.
turning 16. We'll move on from that painful note.
Yeah.
Um, so we've already commented on JD Daniels. He played both Jack Walker and Mimo.
Uh-huh.
Um, Susan Powter. She's
Mhm.
an Australian born American author, motivational speaker, nutritionist, and personal trainer who is known for her catchphrase, "Stop the Insanity." During the
Oh.
1990s, she hosted The Susan Powter Show. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mhm.
Um, Tracy Nelson played Mary Ruth. Um, according to IMDb, she actually had her first film credit before she turned 5. Patrick Cassidy played Mr. Anthony. He is best known for his roles of Henry Small on Smallville and Johnny Castle from the television show Dirty Dancing. That's according to our friends at IMDb. You previously mentioned Jerry Lewis, who has come up on the Nanny before. He was an American actor, comedian, director, humanitarian, producer, singer, and writer who is known as the King of Comedy. He was well known for his work with the Muscular Dystrophy Association and his annual telethon that was held on Labor Day, or Labor Day weekend, I should say. The Statue of Liberty was referenced. It's in New York. It was a gift from our friends, the French. I believe it is open again to public tours. Ellis Island is where immigrants were processed when immigrating to the United States. Do you want to jump in or shall I keep going?
Yeah. So just to back up a little, they brought up Baywatch. I believe we've discussed that before.
Yes, we have.
Supercuts is like a chain of hair, like kind of on the cheaper end, right? They whenever Mary Ruth's talking about how first and foremost she's an actress, she does mention Merv Griffin, who was an American television show host and media mogul.
He created the Merv Griffin Show, Jeopardy, and Wheel of Fortune.
Also, when we first meet Mr. Anthony, he's singing What's New, Pussycat? And in fact, throughout this entire episode, he's singing various songs.
That is true. He also sings Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer and It's Not Unusual by Tom Jones.
Yeah. So he's often singing throughout. And in fact, I guess we didn't really mention it, but when he's singing, which one? He actually, It's Not Unusual to, yeah. Mimo actually like comes in and joins him and they have like this father-son moment.
Yes.
Singing it.
Which is better than the other times when he's singing and gyrating his hips.
Yeah. Fruit Loop.
Cereal. Yes.
Yeah. But also I think like some people use it colloquially.
Possibly. I think of the breakfast cereal, but I
think the breakfast cereal too. But anyway, again, I don't think the other boy was actually a reference to anything.
I didn't think so.
Nancy Reagan.
Yes, Ronald Reagan's wife, with the reference to Patty Davis, their Democratic daughter.
And I feel like going back a little bit, I didn't look it up, but did you? When he says you're 16, you're beautiful, you're mine, and then he says I made it up, that made me think he did not make it up.
I'm Googling now.
Yeah. Like
apparently he did not make it up. That is
those are song by Ringo Starr. Okay.
Bingo.
I was like, as soon as he said I made that up, I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
you may not know that reference off the top of my head, but no, you didn't, sir.
You were right to be suspicious. Did you catch he also made a reference to Les Mis?
Yes, he did. He did make, because he is saying to the others that, you know, after the whole first incident with the picture frame, that this is not Les Mis, the Rob. But I think he said miserable, or like he had like a
Les Miserables
or something like that. Yeah,
some butchering of the name.
Exactly.
And I think at a later point when they're watching, he says to Claude, it's the second time, if you're going to pretend to be cutting her hair, at least put scissors in your hand.
Yeah. Fran mentions When she dyed her hair red, like Rula Lenska.
Yep.
She's a British actress.
Did you catch what she was well known for?
I did not.
She was apparently well known for a series of commercials advertising for Alberto VO5 hairspray.
Oh, okay.
That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Pier
any
1 was having a sale.
fair? That's a home goods store.
Yes. Although I think it like went bankrupt or something. Like I know the one near me closed down.
I think
So,
there's still some of them.
mhm.
I mean, their webpage still exists. So, anyway, Top Ramen. Did you catch that one?
Yep.
Um, they're instant ramen noodles that were first introduced in the United States by Nissan Foods back in 1970. That's
Mhm.
according also to our friends at Wikipedia.
And then Kodak Moment.
Yeah.
Kodak is a company that has to do with photography.
Yeah. So Eastman Kodak was a company that was founded in 1892
Oh,
for
wow.
exactly the purpose that you referenced. They were big in the photography field. That's according to also to our friends at Wikipedia.
Hmm. I'm out. Do you have any more?
I think I'm out as well. Lovely
Okay.
listeners, if there are any others, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 90s nostalgia.
Okay, so we're skipping Yiddish.
Oh, I sorry, I put them in the wrong order. I apologize. Yes, Yiddish Cup. There were I caught 3 references, all in the same uh section, which was when Fran was um guilting her mother into giving up her professional aspirations of
Mm-hmm.
being the shampoo girl. Hanukkah is the festival of lights. It's a holiday that Jews celebrate in the winter. It commemorates the Maccabees, you know, victory. And it's known for using a menorah, which is actually a Hanukkah. I feel like I talked about this previously, but oh well, I'll talk about it again. Um, Basically, which commemorates the fact that once the temple was reclaimed, there was enough oil for that should have burned for 1 day, but instead it burned for 8. So we light candles for 8 days, and because of the oil involved in the Hanukkah story, we eat a lot of fried foods, most notably potato latkes, which is what apparently Uncle Aaron ate 32 of and then exploded because he sat too close to the menorah.
Mm-hmm.
Potato latkes, another word for like pancake. Um, they're made with things like, potato and onion and flour and some salt, sugar, pepper, and usually an egg. And they're deep fried and delicious and marvelous. I highly recommend them. They're yummy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was there any other thing that I missed? Oh, there was also the reference to the bar mitzvah, but we've talked about that so many times.
Yeah, I think
Um,
you've got it.
okay, excellent. The 90s nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of the outfits that we've already discussed, very
Yes.
90s.
Yes.
The Kodak Moment.
Yes.
I mean, I recall, like when she said that, I was like, I recall that phrase. We don't use that these days.
We do not. Although my understanding is that Kodak like instant photos have sort of come back
Yeah,
somewhat.
there has been, I think, a resurgence of like this type of instant photos.
Exactly. Instead of just taking pictures on your phone, like
Mm-hmm.
people often do now.
Yes.
Um, the old cars, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure if this counts as nostalgia or not, but like the discomfort slash dancing around Claude's sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
like Mary Ruth's obvious discomfort, that to me felt very dated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, the reference to the easy bake oven,
Mm-hmm.
although it's very possible they're still quite popular, but I haven't
Yeah,
used
I mean,
mine
they're
and
still around, but I don't know to what extent they're popular. Kind of going off of what you were talking about with like Claude, I
mm-hmm,
feel like there was just some very stereotypical characterizations of like the people in the Chatterbox, if that makes
mm-hmm,
sense. So like Kim, the manicurist, like They were really playing up some like Asian stereotypes, I felt,
That's fair. Yeah.
in terms of how she spoke and like yeah, I'll leave it there. But it felt a bit stereotypical in a sense.
Yeah, which also sort of felt dated.
Mhm. Yeah.
I agree.
And again, I don't know if it's still as common today, but for like Mr. Anthony to so overtly flirt with Maggie when he has a 13-year-old son as well. Um, but yeah.
Did Mimo look 13 to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did he not to you?
I mean, he looked like a slightly older Jack Walker to me. Because that's who he
Wasn't
is.
he like 13?
He was
Like
12.
the
Well, he claimed to
character?
be 12. He claimed to be 12 because when he, gets to the house the first time, he complains about how he hates flying because look at me, I look 10 or something like that. Um, yeah. So sorry, just to go back to the Easy Bake Oven because your comment, like, oh, they're still around, got me interested. So according to Hasbro's webpage, they actually have a whole thing on the history of the Easy Bake Oven.
Mm-hmm.
It was first introduced, and I quote, in 1963. Here's where I quote: America's first working toy oven debuted as a turquoise range with a carrying handle and pretend stovetop. Invented by designers at Kenner Products, now owned by Hasbro, the oven sold for $15.95. Apparently, in 2013, Hasbro celebrated 50 years of the Easy Bake brand, and they decided to mix things up. That's in quotes. And then they unveiled a new color scheme, a sleek, and I quote, a sleek blue, sleek silver, blue, and black model. So apparently they are still around.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want a bite-sized cake.
Maybe, yeah, maybe you can like put that on your list for Hanukkah or something.
I'm pretty sure mine is still at my parents' house.
Ooh, that's even
So
more interesting. You should find that and test it.
I'm pretty certain I know where it is. Sorry, that was a
I
total
know
tangent.
I do not have one any longer. I think when I was a kid, I got one from like a garage sale.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I never had like a new one. And I think we're successful um, in using it, but it is definitely long gone.
I have this vague recollection that at some point I needed to change the light bulb
Yeah.
inside. I,
Mm-hmm.
I have this vague recollection, or maybe I didn't. I think at one point something got stuck in it. There was something. It was not. It was totally easy to use unless you did something stupid like I probably did. Um, I remember the cute little pans and like you'd mix everything, you put it in. Anyway, now
Mm-hmm.
thank you. Now I want bite-sized cake.
You're welcome. So do you have anything else for 90s nostalgia?
I do not.
Okay, take us to some future fun.
So we never see the Chatterbox crew again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start there. Um, Maggie does have a Sweet 16 in season 3 in the episode A Fine Family Feud. We In that episode we will also meet Aunt Frida, and we'll learn about the feud between Frida and Sylvia. I believe we do see more of that short-haired wig on Fran.
Oh, okay.
I have two others. Maggie in, I want to say it's season 5. She dyes her hair red and she loves it. And Maxwell's like looking like he's gonna have like he's like going into conniptions. And Niles totally diffuses the situation by saying to Margaret something like, Miss Margaret, I love it. It makes you look so much younger. And Maggie's like, well, I hate it. I'm going back blonde. You can't stop me. And she like stomps off.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, in season 6, uh, Maxwell finds Maggie in bed with a man, and is not a happy camper about it. And so Fran suggests to Maggie that she, put on a very juvenile dress, hold this lollipop and, skip into your daddy's office and apologize.
Mhm.
Maggie tells her that I don't think that dress will fit because I think I'm pregnant.
Ooh.
So I won't say how that resolves.
Mhm.
You guys will just have to keep tuning into our podcast to find out, or go find the episode and watch it yourself. But Bernadette and I are more fun to give commentary. So,
Or both.
or both, even better, all of the above. So yeah, that's the future fun I thought of.
Mhm.
Is it my turn to?
Yes. It is
Okay.
your turn to go first.
Unlike usual, when I say I hate having to rate the episode, this one's easy for me. I'm giving it a 1. I would give it a
Wow.
0, but we are, I believe we rate from 1 to 5, so I'm giving it a 1. I hate this episode, which is why my notes are not as detailed as they normally are. This is an episode that I skip when I like rewatch the show because I do not enjoy it. It feels like a backdoor pilot, which is exactly what it is. I have no interest in these people who are not, part of the cast. Yeah, I do not like this episode. I do not enjoy watching it. I will say that because of my anti-Chatterbox bias, I have not watched this episode in many, many years until like last week when like starting to get ready to prep for this. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that it wasn't as I remembered it. Like I remembered it being like the Sheffield family in like the first scene and then like never again.
Mhm.
So like we did have, Sylvia and Yetta at the Chatterbox, and we do have the whole thing with Maggie's wig, and then Maxwell and Fran going out for ice cream and a movie. But
Mhm.
again, like I don't want to watch this episode. I'm probably not going to watch it again. So I'm giving it a 1.
Mhm. Um, I don't have as strong of feelings as you regarding it. Uh, but since you gave it a 1, I'll give it like a 1.5.
That's fine. I mean, you also
Um,
don't have to. If you also
no,
want to give
I
it a
mean,
1, you
I
can.
I kind of alluded to there are many problematic things within the episode itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I even started out by saying like I was befuddled. Like I didn't understand. Again, it felt like that backdoor pilot you mentioned. But like at the very beginning of the episode, my expectation for the episode was that somehow Maggie's hair was going to get messed up at the
Mm-hmm.
Chatterbox, and that would be the whole kind of like conflict in this. So I was like very confused by why we stayed at the Chatterbox. But yeah, you saying it is a backdoor pilot makes a lot of sense. Um, and like again, overall, it just kind of the only reason I'm giving it like 0.5 more than you is just like the little Maxwell Fran interaction at the end, where he was just a bit more openly flirtatious than normal,
Mm-hmm.
where he's suggesting dinner along, or sorry,
A
a
movie.
movie with
Yeah.
ice cream. Um, but honestly, like, yeah, I didn't care for this episode.
Yeah.
Again, the same old things I always talk about. Longtime listeners know the whole sexualization of Maggie.
Right.
Feels inappropriate. Uh, the whole again, Sylvia grabbing Mr. Anthony's butt in the show, like again, they play it off as like a lighthearted whatever. But still, I mean, you shouldn't just grab service people,
You
or
shouldn't grab
anybody.
anybody unless
Yeah,
like
or
they've
anybody. But
said okay, like, and
yeah,
that.
but especially I feel like they're a bit vulnerable to that because they're supposed to be like helping the customers. But yeah, just don't grab anybody, please.
Right.
Um, again, like I agree that there wasn't really much chemistry within the Chatterbox crew. And
No.
that, yeah, where was this supposed to go if they've already resolved this thing with the mom?
Right.
Uh, and yeah, so I feel like there was more. Again, the kind of stereotypical characterizations of some of the characters, some of the comments made. Um, yeah, I agree with you, Debbie.
Yeah. Just sorry. On you made me think of something I want to tack on to my the first comment I made under future fun, we never see the Chatterbox crew again. But I think it's in season 3. I think it's the episode "The Party's Over," where Fran and Val are planning a party. I won't go into the details of why or what, but Fran makes a comment to Val about, "Oh, I guess my hair guy didn't get to see you," and there's not even like a reference to it being Mr. Anthony.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I also thought of like the whole thing with Sylvia, and like this might be 90s nostalgia as well in a sense. Just like that whole concept of like, you shouldn't get a job. Who's going to make lunch for dad? Like, you're being selfish, you know, that whole kind of thing. And they gloss over Sylvia's whole kind of, my whole life, I've been a daughter. I've been, you know,
A
a
wife, a
wife,
mother.
mother. Who the hell am I? And they never revisit that in this episode.
Correct. I don't think they actually revisit that so much ever. I will say there are 2 episodes, but it's really it gets, I guess, more resolved, if you will, in season 6, in the episode titled "Maternal Affairs," where Sylvia does try to define herself slightly differently. You know, there's a guy who is pursuing her who is not Fran's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And she does sort of explore it. I don't want to give too much away. Um, but yeah, no, we don't really come back to who is she? How does she define herself outside of those relationships?
Yeah, so again, especially contrasting this to last week's episode, where I believe we both gave it a 5, right?
I'm going
Or
back to
I
double
gave
check.
it a 5.
I believe we both did, yes, because it was the episode "Strange Bedfellows," which was wonderful.
Yes. So yeah, I was just a little befuddled by this
I'll be curious to see what you give next week's episode.
one. Lovely listeners, turn in next week.
Exactly. I'm glad this one is now behind us, so we never have to talk about it again.
Okay.
And I never have to watch it again. So am I coming off too strong? I'm sorry if I am. If any of our wonderful
You're
listeners,
certainly entitled to your opinions.
if any of our wonderful listeners has very strong feelings in the opposite direction, like you love this episode, this is your favorite episode, please let us know why. And perhaps Bernadette and I will revisit our rating of this episode. Probably not, but I'm willing to hear the other side.
Yes.
So, all right. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
All right. That's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited The Nanny. Join us next week when we'll be discussing episode 48, Fran Gets Mugged.
If you'd like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at afinetimenannyrevisited@gmail.com. Have a great week.